everyone. Today, on the occasion of Cancer Survivors Day, I, on behalf of the Times of India, welcome you all to the conclave Living with Cancer, a journey that makes you only stronger. I am Dr. Ananya Awasthi, a public health practitioner and the founder and director of Anuvaad Solutions that works on translating science to inform policy action on India's health and nutrition agenda. My background is in public health research and policy consulting, and I have a master's in global health from Harvard University. According to the data from National Cancer Registry Program, at least 1 out of 9 Indians are likely to get cancer in their lifetimes. Moreover, nearly 15 lakh new cancer cases are reported every year in India, and almost 8 lakh Indians lose their lives to cancer as each year passes by. But the good news is that advanced research and development in the field of cancer have been able to evolve cancer treatment through the last few decades while increasing the survival rate of people living with this ailment. And this conclave is aimed at bringing to fore cancer survivors, their stories, their inspiring journeys, while also shedding light on the multidisciplinary area of palliative care and why is it so important. Keeping this in mind, this very session is dedicated to the significance of palliative care in the recovery of cancer patients and is thus titled The Pivotal Role of Palliative Care in the Life of a Cancer Survivor. Now, for very many of you who may not know what palliative care is, according to WHO estimates, around 34% cancer patients worldwide require palliative care. This focuses on easing symptoms, pain management, pre and post-op chemo home care, nutrition therapy, physical therapy, relaxation techniques, and spiritual counseling, amongst others. Palliative care, as you can understand, is an interdisciplinary specialty that is integral to the comprehensive care for oncology patients. There are major changes in the life of a cancer survivor which might overwhelm them, but as they battle this life-threatening condition, supportive or palliative care is designed to improve the quality of their lives. This is what makes palliative care so important. So to know more about it, today we have an expert panel where we not only have a cancer survivor, but we also have with us distinguished experts from this multidisciplinary domain. For this session today, we have with us Dr. Jayita Deodhar. She is the professor and in charge of the Department of Palliative Medicine at the Tata Memorial Center. Dr. Deodhar holds positions on the board of directors of the International Psycho-Oncology Society, the Central Council of the Indian Association of Palliative Care, and she also serves on the editorial boards of Psycho-Oncology Journal and the Indian Journal of Palliative Care. Then we have with us Dr. Raghavendra Rao. He's the director at the Central Council for Research in Yoga and Naturopathy, Ministry of AYUSH, Government of India. He holds a bachelor's degree in naturopathy and yogic sciences and has conducted extensive research in areas such as cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, and cardiovascular risk. He has received numerous awards like the ASCO Conquer Cancer Foundation Merit Award by the American Society of Clinical Oncology, has published several research papers, and holds prominent positions in prestigious institutes like the Swami Vivekananda Yoga University. Then we have with us Dr. K. Sunitha Premalatha. She's the chief dietitian and the head of the department at Yashoda Hospitals, Hyderabad. She specializes in clinical nutrition and dietetics with a PhD in diet, lifestyle, and cancer from Osmania University. She is also the co-convener of the Indian Dietetic Association Telangana chapter, bringing her expertise in cancer nutrition to her role at Yashoda Hospitals. Finally, we have with us Ms. Harmala Gupta. She is a cancer survivor, a social activist who founded CanSupport in 1996 to provide compassionate support services for cancer patients and their families in India. Her organization offers free home-based palliative care to over 2,600 patients with advanced cancer stages. With her vision as a social entrepreneur and a cancer volunteer, Harmala has made significant contributions to the field and has received numerous awards. We also have with us Mr. Vishal Lathwal. He is the AVP and head of Max at the Rate of Home, the home healthcare division of Max Hospitals. With over 8 years at Max Healthcare, he has played key roles in driving its growth strategy, operations transformation, and establishing Max Home as a leading provider of home healthcare services across the country. So, with that introduction, let's dive in. And my first question is to you, Ms. Harmala Gupta, who's a cancer survivor. Tell us about the cancer that you were diagnosed with, and also talk to us about how challenging was it for you to find the right treatment for you in India, and how did you finally sail through it? Over to you, Ms. Gupta.
I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a kind of lymphatic cancer. And at that time, I was studying for a PhD in McGill University in Montreal, Canada. So my treatment took place at the Princess Margaret Hospital in Toronto, Canada. I was fortunate to be there because I didn't really have to ask around and try and find out where I could get treated. It was obvious to me this was the premier institute and the best place to go. I also feel that I was fortunate that supportive care, or what is now known as palliative care, was just being realized and offered to cancer patients. And ironically, it was yoga and meditation from the country that I belonged to, India, that was now being offered as essential for anyone who has cancer treatment.
Coming to the Indian context, Dr. Jayita, what are the challenges that people in India typically face as they navigate what's the right treatment to get? And how would you really explain or unbundle what palliative care means to someone who may have been diagnosed with cancer but probably do not understand the scope and extent of what palliative care has to offer to them?
Thank you, Dr. Ananya. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yes, it is palliative care. You explained well in the introduction. For a cancer patient navigating through their starting treatment, continuing treatment, ending treatment, post that, through recurrence, through survivorship, cancer patients face multiple challenges. Most commonly, the physical symptoms like pain, fatigue, breathlessness, loss of sleep, loss of appetite, and toxicities, not just because of cancer, toxicities related to cancer treatment. Now, it's important to understand, like Harmala said, the disease is in a person. So just looking at the physical aspects is not sufficient. Along with the physical problems, obviously, there are always emotions attached to it. So emotions while navigating, while coping, so the distress, the adjustment, the anxiety, the low mood. And again, this person is not alone in an island. There is a family around him. He has a role in the society. He or she has a role in the society. So along with the physical, the emotional, the social, and the practical aspects come into play. And in a country like India, and not just India, it's now it's internationally, financial toxicity, we know, plays such a huge burden. And along with the diagnosis of any serious life-threatening, life-limiting illness comes existential questions as to what happened to me, why me, where is my God, how do I cope? So spiritual aspects. And the treatment of any serious illness like cancer is so much more than just a physical treatment. It's about decision making, it's about planning, it is thinking about the past, thinking about current, thinking about the future, and that is exactly what palliative care is. So when I do explain, I explain it like this, and that is what is needed, because the cancer patients are facing these multiple problems, not just for themselves, but for their caregivers. Palliative care is the interdisciplinary, holistic, person-centered, family-centered, comprehensive care. And that improves. I know that it'll improve. It's, as you said in the WHO definition, it's catering towards improving quality of life of not just the patients but the caregivers as well.
Right. The next question to you and Dr. Deodhar hinted towards, that cancer not only affects your physical body, but has, so many implications on your mental health, on your spiritual health. When we were growing up at a time, it was all about treatment. Medical treatment meant only treating the physical bodies. And it's only recently that people have understood the importance and the value of other holistic approaches like you. To you, Dr. Rao, is to a skeptic mind, how would you explain that yoga and naturopathy and holistic approaches have been scientifically shown to demonstrate impact in terms of improved cancer outcomes?
Thank you, Dr. Ananya. First of all, continuation to Dr. Jayita. Cancer makes one feel sick. Simple as that. If you have any sort of a symptom, it may be a fatigue, you may have a pain, or you may feel let down today. Whatever it is, if you have a bad mood, everything makes you feel more about the cancer which you have. It reminds you of cancer all the time. So people always relate the symptom to the distress as well as to the severity of the disease. And that is one important aspect which you have to keep in mind. Why? Because when you have the cancer trajectory and when you're undergoing the cancer-directed treatment, more and more treatment-related toxicity and side effects, they don't look at the side effect as a result of the treatment, but also perceive that cancer is also overpowering them, and you have to give more amount of treatment, more drastic amount of treatment to take care of the cancer, and that's why you're suffering from it. Okay, saying that, what these patients have to be doing here is not ruminating about the same thing all across throughout the day. So they need to vent out their feelings, they need to calm down their mind, they need to reduce their stress. Because if, for example, let me tell you one important symptom of fatigue. We can't do anything about fatigue, especially in cancer patients. Okay, it is there because of the cancer-related treatment, it can be because of the anemia, it can be because of tumor load, it can be because of a very large number of factors. Okay, one simple important aspect which can compound this level of fatigue is your stress and distress. So what we do to tell the patient is, calm down your mind, take in deep breaths. Okay, see that you take in more of oxygenation so that your oxygenation tissues are more, the fatigue levels will come down, and try to do some amount of work which is not so exhaustive. Try to conserve your energy. Okay, try to do relaxation technique, try to get a good amount of sleep. So most of these patients can't get sleep. That's again a problem because of the amount of distress and stress they're undergoing. Circadian rhythms are changing, the hormone levels are shifting, and the cortisol or stress hormone is quite high even in the night, and they can't sleep at all. They are very, very restless. So if you are able to reduce the stress hormones by practice of yoga asanas, practice of doing more of relaxation technique, but itself will give you a lot of confidence to these patients. So what we have really seen here is, apart from the research evidence, first step which we should do to a cancer patient is to understand what symptom is really bothering them, and is it that yoga can really help in mitigating that symptom. The moment we are able to do that, they start getting confidence in themselves that they can take care of their disease, they can take care of the symptom, and they start taking this responsibility to fight the disease. That they become more confident about it. They think they can overcome this with proper diet, with proper lifestyle, with proper yoga, and the step-by-step approach we take them to deeper levels of relaxation, yoga, and simple practices, not topsy-turvy asanas or contortion postures and all. Very simple asanas, losing exercises, breathing exercises. These are more than enough to help in reducing the symptoms. And if you look at the research evidence for yoga today, this is one of the largest, you can say. In 1998, when I was foraying into research in yoga and cancer, people were laughing. They said you can use it for hypertension, you can use it for back pain. Why you can't use it in cancer patients? My patients can't do yoga. But the moment we started showing them benefits of adding yoga along with the cancer-directed treatment, like it helped patients to overcome the fear of surgery. It helped patients to reduce chemotherapy-induced nausea, vomiting. It helped patients to sleep better. It helped patients to become more functional, improving their quality of life. So many things were what was an advantage by adding on yoga, just adding on a simple yoga program, 20 minutes in a day. Okay, and this doctors came to understand that this is beneficial. And now, if we look at the research evidence for yoga, the largest number of clinical trials is on cancer oncology. So almost all the major cancer hospitals in the world have an integrative oncology department where there is yoga there. There's Tai Chi, there's Qigong, there's yoga, there is massage. Okay, there's psycho-oncology sessions, there's acupuncture, PCM, whatnot. So a lot of evidence has been generated now today. Level 1 evidence has been generated now today with respect to yoga interventions. And we also tell patients, we don't force patients to do yoga. We say them, attend a session, see if it is beneficial for you. And we see that most of the time they come back for taking the session again in the hospital.
Right. And as Ms. Harmala mentioned, miles away from the country to be realizing the strength and power of yoga and how that might have been helpful to her journey. So taking a step back in terms of cancer prevention, the next question to you, Dr. Sunitha, do you think what we put on our plate, our diets, how can that possibly prevent cancer or make it more likely or increase our risk for cancer? What's the connection between diets and cancer?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ananya. When we talk about food and nutrition, the connection is very strong. Food as such contains certain chemicals which can be carcinogenic, can cause cancer. At the same time, when we talk about good nutrition, once the patient gets detected with cancer, nutrition plays a very, very important role during the treatment to overcome side effects of cancer. At the same time, what we call it as chemoprevention, that's the third part, where there are important phytochemicals in food beyond nutrition offer certain health benefits, and they can help in cancer prevention. At whichever stage of cancer it might be, they can act as anti-cancer agents, anti-mutagenic agents, and can prevent. So when we talk about cancer causing foods, for example, meat cooked at a high temperature, grilling or barbecuing can lead to potential carcinogenic substances like polycyclic hydrocarbons, heterocyclic amines. Regular intake can put them at high risk of stomach cancers. Salt, preserved foods, and of course, eating more of sugar, sweetened beverages, junk food, calorie-dense food, obesity as such. As we all know that breast cancer is the #1 cancer in the world and even in India. And of late, there have been increasing numbers of breast cancer, hormone-related cancer, which mainly depend on body fatness. As we know that obesity, I think, is identified as an independent risk factor as per the WHO for 13 different cancers. I think as a dietitian, the first and foremost recommendation for cancer prevention is maintaining your weight within the desirable range. That's very, very important. Eating a well-balanced diet, which includes whole grain cereals, good amount of fruits and vegetables, having prebiotics and probiotics, and getting proteins from plant-based sources, which is also an important thing, including lean meat food. Of course, nuts and oil seeds are a part of diet. So overall, a healthy, well-balanced diet. For that matter, whether it's diabetes or cardiovascular or cancer prevention, it all narrows down to eating a well-balanced diet. Of course, portion control is also important. At the same time, what are cancer-causing foods? As I mentioned about those which promote obesity, I think those kind of foods, refined starches, more intake of sweetened beverages, or high intake of sugar, high intake of animal foods, more usage of cooking oil, fried or fatty foods, and of course, the junk or the fast food. The typical urbanized diet, which is pro-inflammatory and is conducive to cancer cause.
Thank you. This is very, very enlightening. My next question to Mr. Vishal. In fact, this is something even I don't understand too well, being a public health practitioner. Tell us about home care in the life of a cancer patient. Like, break down the different home care services that cancer patients typically need. Introduce us to that whole idea of home.
Right. So firstly, thank you, Dr. Ananya, for the introduction, and accolades to the TOI team for organizing this Medithon. I think it's a very, very relevant topic. The the Indian government, the Indian diaspora has made some progress on palliative care, but it's high time we start talking about it in forums like these. So if I talk about the role of home care, it stems from the part that even Dr. Rao sort of emphasized on, that such patients need a lot of comfort in their care journey, right? And there is nothing more comforting than a home environment. So if I were to really stress upon the need of home care, three broad aspects. One, I think the burden on hospitals is massive of this disease, right? I think the disease in itself is huge, right, in numbers, and whichever cut you take. I don't think that the hospital ecosystem is adapted enough to sort of serve this underserved market, right? Second piece is that across the care journey, right, from continued care to supportive care to palliative care to even end of life, as you progress into that stage of the disease, home care is something that can be a bridging connect for continued care, correct? Across the spurts of hospitalization in the interim course of treatment, right, that come about. So home care can serve as a very good bridge of connected interdisciplinary care, which is right connected to your treating physician. And again, re-emphasizing the fact, the third aspect is home care is about comfort. It is putting you at a place of comfort, making sure that the right care ecosystem is delivered to the patient instead of pulling the patient out every time of their natural space and sort of putting them in already strained environments of hospital, right? We come from a hospital background ourselves at Max, but we do realize that the continued care ecosystem is very, very important for such patients, correct? In terms of services, I mean, any service that you could think of in the healthcare regime of things is something home care has now come about to deliver. For example, in and out services like blood work, such patients need regular blood work, medication delivery, injectables, to even assisted care. For example, you may need specialized nursing care, you need attendants for activities of daily living, you may need physical therapy or rehab, correct? So I think home care companies and the ecosystem has evolved to provide all of these services. The essential element there is holistic solutions over services. So such patients are slightly different in the context or the need for warranting multiple people or multiple care aspects to come together. So as home care providers, we are very cognizant of the fact that it goes beyond clinical recovery, right? There are other psychological elements to the care recovery, and we need to ensure that at least the clinical pathways are made as comfortable as possible.
Right. Now, addressing the elephant in the room, pain management. Dr. Jayita, tell us more about it. I'm sure this is going to be one of the most common complaints of a cancer patient. So, tell us about some of the effective rehabilitation methods or approaches that you take so far as pain management is concerned.
Right. Thanks. Yes, very rightly so. Pain is one of the commonest symptom actually. So about 60 to 70% of cancer patients during their journey will experience pain. This will increase more towards end of life. Almost 80 to 90% of patients will experience pain. And in survivorship, a lot of the treatments which might have been related to chemotherapy-related peripheral neuropathic pain, half of the patients, unfortunately, survivors, continue to have pain as for long term. And pain is also the whole concept of palliative care, how it is total. Pain is also about total pain. It is not just a physical experience of pain, but it is the perception of pain, it is the mood related to the pain, it is the spiritual aspect of pain. So pain needs a comprehensive strategy. For cancer patients, of course, we do use a lot of pharmacological therapies depending on the mechanism of pain, the cause of pain, and which medications will be effective, along with, not to forget, non-pharmacological options, which is, as Dr. Raghavendra said, it's about mood, about rehabilitation, about relaxation, because the perception of pain and the cognitive cognitive processing of pain, what we think about pain is important. Since we are talking in the context of survivorship, one of the sort of problems which happens in pain is because, as I said, the chemotherapy related neuropathic pain and sometimes lymphedema. So as you said, rehabilitation measures, exercise programs, assistive devices, and of course, psychological interventions like cognitive behavioral therapy, apart from, of course, yoga, which are evidence-based, will be important for managing pain. So as we can see, because pain has different components, the interventions also have to be addressing towards these components. So just giving, so we have neuropathic pain management. If I give a neuropathic pain, an analgesic for neuropathic pain, just that is not going to be helpful. We need to address all the other components, which is psychological, what I think of the pain, how I perceive the pain, and that is why active distraction techniques help a lot. You reduce the muscle spasm, so relaxation techniques help a lot. Things like meditation, because that also will affect the perception, that will help a lot. So these need to be, and for any symptom, pain is one symptom in cancer journey, but for any symptom, the steps are that we need to prioritize the symptom, we need to assess, we need to treat, we need to support, and we need to follow up. And you said rightly, you said, Dr. Rao said, it's about patient-triggered symptoms. What is the symptom that is most important to the patient? And we focus on that, because everything is about the patient's perception. So what's important to the patient and family? We need to focus on that in palliative care. And it's also about pharmacological as well as non-pharmacological. In the survivorship arena, we need to use more of non-pharmacological, but pharmacological as and when required for whatever term that's required.
Right. Thank you for shedding light on the pharmacological options that may exist for pain management. And as you rightly said, an analgesic may not be the complete answer. So taking from there, Dr. Rao, tell us about naturopathy and what is the role of naturopathic medicine in cancer management, and which all symptoms it might be helpful in addressing?
So when we talk about naturopathy, we do a lot of work on hydrotherapy, we do a lot of work on calorie restriction, fasting, we do a lot of work on plant-based diet. So basically, this is very, very useful when patients have already completed their treatment, the first line of treatment like post-chemotherapy or post-radiation, whatever it is, and they're on the way to remission. So during that time, when most of these patients flock to these naturopathy centers. So what we have seen here is when you start giving chemotherapy and you give a lot of medications, the chemotherapy not only kills the cancer cells but also sets in an inflammatory milieu inside. Okay, it triggers inflammation inside. Okay, there's inflammatory milieu. At the same time, there's increased amount of oxidative stress. The increased stress on the liver to remove the toxic compounds or remove the drug metabolites. Because there's increased load on the kidneys. So this is where naturopathy can really help. When you start doing naturopathy, what we do is we start putting them on calorie restriction with citrus fruits, especially lemon juice fasting. We use turmeric, we use haldi, and all these things. So these also are phytochemicals are there. Curcumin is there, limonoids and lemon is there. So all these have anti-cancer properties, anti-inflammatory properties, and they also help in reducing oxidative stress. At the same time, they also help in converting these fat-soluble toxins in the liver to water-soluble ones, so that they can be easily excreted out to the kidneys or to the stool. So all these things are very useful, especially when you use naturopathy in the context of rehabilitating a patient post-chemotherapy. But it should never be used as a front-end treatment to say that I will cure your cancer with only naturopathy or only with yoga and all. This is an adjunct basically which helps in cleansing the body of all the toxins. At the same time, see, when you use the word toxin, again, you need to be very clear about what you're really talking about. Are you talking about drug metabolite? Are you talking about the microbiota? Are you talking about food-related toxins? What it is. So as Dr. Sunitha also was talking about how diet can play an important role in carcinogenesis, they also play a very important role in the drug metabolism as well of the diets. Okay, they can be even contradictory to that. We don't have much data on that because we have most of these are animal studies. So we really don't have data on that. But what we have seen here is, which I have seen with my patients here is, with some of the drugs, like for example, some of the patients with lung cancer, when they were taking chemotherapy, adding on curcumin, haldi especially, not curcumin also. I just told them to take haldi along with milk in the night, and that really helped in improving the chemotherapy response. Okay, same way with the patient with oral mucositis, just applying honey inside the oral mucosal lining. Okay, and using a lemon and a salt water gargle every day helped in reducing mucositis severity. Okay, so a lot of things can be there. Kitchen remedies are there in the home, which can be really used safely along with treatment. But you need to really understand why you're using it and how these are going to act. Okay, for example, morphine-induced constipation. Okay, so this we have seen that yoga can really be very, very useful with morphine-induced constipation, because when laxatives don't help, sometimes yoga can really help in doing that. So again, for example, with pain as well. So we have seen that you're adding on yoga intervention and just changing the diet also. It really, especially this citrus juice fasting, early morning lemon juice fasting, we have seen that it is very useful when you do a calorie restriction. For patients with metastatic bone pain, they reduce the amount of dependency on medications by almost 30%. It's a very huge amount, because more NSAIDs you put, more this thing you put, you have GI toxicity, and all these things are going to be there. You are going to have side effects. The goal is there to see that you depend less on medications, take non-pharmacological treatments to improve your quality of life. You take care of your symptoms, and that is the goal there. And yoga and naturopathy can play a very, very important role here if it is done in a proper way under the supervision of a qualified person.
And as you rightly said, the correct framing is important, that yoga and other natural therapies are adjunct to the main clinical line of treatment, and that they can, and it's really in the framework of a holistic approach that we talk about yoga and natural therapies. Since you mentioned diets, back to you, Dr. Premalatha. Would you like to add more in terms of, it might be worthwhile for the viewers to learn about certain foods that can reduce oxidative stress, both in people who've been diagnosed with cancer and people at large, to reduce the risk of cancer. So any particular foods and maybe some sort of, if you can give context in terms of the science behind why certain foods can reduce oxidative stress, and what kind of diets then we should really have as a community, and then of course tips around this.
Yes, Dr. Ananya. I would say, as a dietitian, there is no specific thing like anti-cancer diet or a magical food which can do all the magic or to wipe the cancer, but I can highlight dietary guidelines that one can follow to prevent cancer. And also these guidelines are very important for cancer survivors as well. Number one, stick to well-balanced diet, a diet which should have variety of foods, choosing food from each different food groups. For example, choosing whole grain cereals. At least out of 3 meals, 1 meal should be from whole grain cereal, which has a lot of anti-cancer agents, especially in the outer layers. So that one is very important rather than refined or ultra-processed foods. Second thing, getting your protein. You can choose lean protein. A lot of cancer patients lose muscle mass. Weight loss is very, very characteristic feature, especially during the cancer treatment. So paying attention to good quality protein foods. I would always say, in your meal, start with the protein food first. So it could be lean protein like chicken without skin or fish prepared, or boiled eggs, which are affordable, or mostly vegetable plant-based proteins. I think we are taking less amount of lentils, beans, dals. So we have variety of dals and legumes available in our diets, so that we can encourage them to take a katori of thick dal with lunch and dinner, whole gram pulses, and fruits and vegetables. I would say they are the nutritional superstars, angels to health. So they are loaded with so many phytonutrients, phytochemicals like curcumin or many flavonoids, especially cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, and you have many colorful fruits and vegetables. Your diet should be like a rainbow. Focus on different colors. Try to eat at least 2 fruits on a daily basis and good amount of vegetable in your diet. I would say half of your plate should be filled with vegetables and fruits. And another thing is about reducing the amount of sugar, sweetened beverages in your diet, which is very important. Drinking adequate amount of water, and also nuts and oil seeds. As we were talking about oxidative stress, I think nuts and oil seeds like almonds or walnut or flaxseed, pumpkin seeds, which are a good source of vitamin E, natural source of vitamin E, which is a very good antioxidant, can be a part of the diet. Of course, less usage of cooking oil, cutting down the ultra-processed or junk food or fast food, sticking to more traditional food would be important, and paying attention to portion control, whether it is rotis or rice, a katori of rice or a cup of milk. So portion control ultimately is also very, very important. Balance your calorie intake with calorie expenditure. So regular exercise also should be a part of your daily routine. That's also very important. And when we talk about diets, of course, Mediterranean, the traditional, not the present, but traditional Mediterranean diet is supposed to be one of the best diets when we talk about cancer prevention as such, which talks about lean protein, nuts, and omega-3 fatty acids like sea fish, whole grain cereals, and plenty of fruits and vegetables, which are very important for cancer prevention.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is very helpful. Going forward in terms of scaling up treatment for patients dealing with cancer and cancer survivors, coming back to you, ma'am, Ms. Harmala Gupta, it's so inspiring to know that your own personal journey sort of triggered you into launching this social, this exercise of social entrepreneurship, where you established CanSupport, which provides palliative care to 2,600 patients. How did that happen? How was that journey like, and what does it mean to you?
Well, I think now we need to get real, really talk about what the cancer journey is. For a cancer survivor, it's a life-shattering experience. The overwhelming emotion is fear. Cancer is associated with death. Everyone around you also believes that. So you're fighting what is an existential crisis in your life. You're not prepared for this, which makes it so hard. And it's a journey that, yes, you need the support from everyone, but ultimately it's your own journey. You have to find the strength within you. You have to find the resilience within you. And you have to come to a point of acceptance. To accept and learn to let go of fear. For me, this is the most important need when you have cancer. You also need a society that's supportive. You need a society that will accept you back with a cancer diagnosis. After my cancer diagnosis, I applied for a couple of jobs and I was rejected, not on the basis of my qualifications, but on the grounds that they didn't think I would be around for very long, and therefore they didn't want to invest in me. For young people, this can be a very cruel introduction to the reality of life. The fact that they may not be able to get married in the traditional manner, the fact that they may not get insurance for the rest of their lives, the fact that they may not get a job. This cancer carries a stigma. It still does. My intention when I came back, was to break this stigma. It had already been broken in the Western world. In Canada, where I had treatment, it was very different. People, the attitude was cancer, oh yeah, so what? It's an illness like any other illness. Let's get on with it. Let's do it. Here I was told, don't discuss it. Don't tell anyone. People would ring me up secretly and say, they couldn't even say the word cancer. It was so difficult. This is the reality of a cancer diagnosis. I started a support group. We started with a breast clinic. Women didn't have prosthesis. They had lost a breast. They had had a radical mastectomy, and they were stuffing their husbands' bananas, vests or some cotton wool in the bra so that, they didn't look odd. There was no attempt to provide them with wigs. There was, and for a woman, a lot of her sense of beauty lies in her hair. And I found this particularly true for Indian women. And that there was no recognition of this. Fortunately, we have come a long way, and this was what stimulated me. I said, it can't be this way. I had seen another way. So that was helpful. I had been outside the country. I'd seen that there are things that can be done to help people. And most importantly, revive hope. How do you revive hope? By putting people in touch with other cancer survivors. People who've had their cancer and are now well and able. Nothing revives hope more than that. And without hope, man cannot live. It is such an important need to believe in your recovery and to believe in the fact that if someone else did it, why can't you? And that you're not alone. That's very important. You're not the only one with cancer. There are many people out there with cancer. And you need to understand that you have an illness that is in many cases quite treatable. And let me say on the question of diet, when you're under treatment, you're not thinking of I should have more protein or more this. You're just thinking, can I get something down? Every time I look at food, it makes me sick. I don't want to eat. I don't have an appetite. I remember my doctor saying, listen, just get some calories into your system. I don't care what you eat. If you like ice cream, keep on having ice cream. Whatever it is, we need to get those calories in you before we give you the next chemotherapy. So these are actual realities that you face. You can't sleep because you're fearful. I found sleep so close to death that it frightened me. It was as if I sleep, I may not wake again. I had panic attacks. This is the reality that we face. And the point is, people don't understand it unless you've been through it yourself. Therefore, I believe in the support group idea. And that's why I started CanSupport, because I want to support people with cancer. I want to support their families. I want to educate people about their disease, about the fact that it is not the end of life, that they can still find a great deal of meaning. What is CanSupport? CanSupport grew out of my own pain with cancer and the need I had to feel that it came into my life, it had some meaning. Human beings need to find meaning in their life. And I said, maybe I've got this cancer because I now need to help others go through this crisis. And I'm in a position where I can do that. So I am fortunate in that sense. And let us not forget what I discovered and many cancer survivors discover, the mind, spirit, and body connection. They cannot be separated. Your body is tough, yes. Your mind, oh my gosh, it can be your slayer or it can be your best friend. You have to learn to control it. Not an easy exercise, you've never done it before. And now you're in a state where there's a storm in your head. You're actually in a state of shock. And to be able to concentrate, even to be able to meditate is difficult. I remember I just felt, okay, just let me learn to relax. That's step one. Just relax my body, mind, because I was on high alert all the time. So these are the realities that we face. And I wanted people with cancer in this country and their families to feel supported. And I realized that it was the underserved, the less privileged who had the toughest time. They couldn't afford treatments. They were often far away from home. They had no one to befriend them in a big city. So there was such a need to reach out to them. And certainly home care, I believe, is the way forward in India, because it is where people are most comfortable, where they're more willing to talk and share, where their families and neighbors also come. And as I said, you can even educate them, use this opportunity to raise awareness. And this person must feel a part of society. They're not now sidelined. They're not in the world of the ill and there's the world of the well. Not at all. It's one world. And that's what we CanSupport strives to do. Give you the best quality of life. Listen to you. What's important to you right now? What's important to you? What gives meaning to your life? Tell me. Let's all work towards that goal. That's what I believe palliative care is. It tells as Dr. Jayita so beautifully explained, let the patient and the family take the lead. No one saw me as a person when I was undergoing my treatment in a cancer institute. They were only interested in my tumor. I had to kind of remind them, hey, there's a person attached to it. Hello, I'm here. And palliative care does just the opposite. It says, listen, let's put this tumor aside. What's important is you. What you want, what's important is the support structure around you. Let's try and use that in the best possible way. So that's, I think, what really led me to start first Cancer Sahyog, an emotional support group, later CanSupport, and then even a network organization called Cancer Care India of support groups for cancer all over the country.
Thank you. I think this is why it's so important to hear it from the cancer survivors. As she said, talking about the realities of what it is like to go through this journey. And I think that's always a very good reality check to all the healthcare and public healthcare practitioners, researchers, to remind them of what is the larger reality that we are fighting against. My last question to you, Vishal. Ms. Gupta already mentioned how home care services is the way to go. But particularly in the Indian context, what about costs? We are not the most developed country, and a lot of cancer can be very, very debilitating for people coming from vulnerable socioeconomic backgrounds. So do you think that landscape has changed, or what's being done to change that?
See, I think I wouldn't say that the landscape hasn't changed. It started to evolve. At least it started to give it due credence. So while I absolutely echo the things that Gupta just mentioned, I think we are all shaken by what a cancer survivor goes through. But at the same time, while we normalize the disease, we have to humanize the treatment, right? And we have to make it more comfortable. Hospital treatments or home care treatments in India versus global standards are still very, very affordable, right? The problem is, how do we provide care at scale, right? So which is where not just the hospital providers or home care, even support groups like CanSupport, etc. I think these three need to come together to sort of balance the cost structures during the care journey, right? Because a cancer, I mean, the expectancy is indefinite, right? You don't know how long will you survive, how long is the treatment period going to be. What we need to do essentially is a couple of things. I think I'm more hopeful of insurance providers sort of taking the punt and covering some aspects of the disease, right, as we progress. There is increased acceptance towards home care and allied sources of treatment, which is sort of pushing us or insurance providers to go that route. So that's one, because India is still an out-of-pocket healthcare spend market, right? So cost becomes a major factor, which is why the question, right?
Thank you. With that, we conclude the session, and I was just jotting down some of the key takeaways, as I think Ms. Harmala beautifully described palliative care. What is palliative care? Take the tumor aside. It's you who's important. So let's talk about that. And I think that can lead very well and very beautifully into the holistic approaches for fighting cancer, the importance of diet, the importance of mind, body, spirit connection. And as Vishal also said, normalize the disease, but also humanize the treatment. With that, we would like to conclude the session. And I hope that, as all the participants have mentioned, we keep the hope alive and the spirit alive too. Thank you so much.